Okay. Okay, great. So I think everyone, if you have any technical issues, you'll just have to um, do some searching because once I get started here, I'm not going to be able to stop and answer questions. So let's see. Let me make sure. So it looks like I'm recording. I just want to make sure that I am. And it says that I am. Okay. So welcome tonight. This is a continuation of something I started a couple of years ago. Um, right after the pandemic, which I hate to say the P word, but right after the pandemic, we experienced a loss of church people in person, and I know a lot of other churches did too. So our senior pastor at the time was like, "Hey, there's this book. I had a couple of books, and I chose to use this book here by Nona Jones because she was selected by Facebook to be the head of communities, and they didn't call it the head of churches, but really and truly it was their thinking. So the head of communities person, Nona Jones, at the time, was heading up this arm of Facebook because I think they recognized the hugeness of it and that there were so many church congregations that were affected. So she wrote this book. It was very good. And so I chose to use it for our curriculum tonight. If you haven't had a chance to go get the book, somebody here online was going to share a PDF version of it. So if you send that to me or send me a link or something, I can share it in an email afterwards with everyone.
Absolutely. If you check your Q&A, I believe I've sent it to you via the questions, and I got your back, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Um, so basically, um, a lot of things happened that we had to do like a knee-jerk transition for. And one of them was putting our church service online. So we scrambled, we got equipment. Um, Equipment was very expensive, but at the time, it didn't we had the budget for it. So a few years later, we wouldn't have been able to do it. But at the time, we could afford to get the sound equipment and the cameras and the microphones and stuff like that. We were FaceTime streaming our services before that with an iPad. So it was a big difference for us. And then some of it morphed into more classes online. So some of our classes that we were doing in person went online. Like we had a Wednesday night book study that was in person, and that went online. So if any of you know Reverend Mona, she's one of the pastors that took over the Wednesday night class for us, which we really appreciated that. Um, let's see. So for some of us, this is all a technology, learning curve. Some of us had experience with social media accounts personally, but not on a commercial level. So even though churches are nonprofits, and even though churches feel like they should have a different marketing angle than a business, it's still considered a business and still needs to have the same kind of strategies and goal setting and all of the things that a business would consider in a church online strategy. So that was something that Resurrection needed at the time. So I started looking into this in 2021, and it came to fruition in 2022. So what we're going to talk about tonight, I'm going to talk about the numbers. So the numbers mean in this particular context of, who's online and what are people looking for, and where can they be found, and then how your church's vision and mission aligns with your online goals, and then what is discipleship? Is that a word that we even use anymore? Discipleship is kind of the OG of what churches were trying to accomplish with outreach and opening their doors and doing things in the community. So discipleship was just getting out into the community and sharing the gospel, sharing Jesus, sharing, what it meant to be a Christian with people who maybe were unchurched, or people who, wanted to hear those messages. So that was discipleship at that time. So it's kind of morphed into something else now, but with the same kind of goals. And then who is our target market now? So I'm a marketing person by trade. I have a marketing company, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I think it's super important to know who your targets are. And it could be more than one kind of a target. So we'll talk about that more. And then the power of social media, how powerful social media has become, and how it's morphed into not just something for entertainment, but something that businesses seriously use um, to do business. So this is me. I'm Suzette, and I'm going to read this to you because I don't want to talk too much, but um, before I came to Resurrection, I am CEO of a company called Innovate Social Media. It's a 12-year-old company. Before that, I had a company, not a company, but I had a corporate life. So my corporate life started in 1997, which makes me sound really old. But in 1997, I went to work for a company that was a startup in the Woodlands, Texas, and they were a tech startup, one of the first, you know, um, pre-public companies, started by a couple of guys. It blew up. It was a company that created internet connectivity all over the United States. So I was part of helping to engineer that. So I started out, nobody at that time had a single clue about how the internet worked. They were hiring what I call warm bodies at the time, because basically they hired you and taught you everything about how to do internet stuff. And I was just one of those geeky people that decided that I loved it. So I learned how to be an internet engineer. I have a marketing degree, but this really appealed to the left and right side of my brain. So I went from being a provisioner, where I learned how to do all this connectivity stuff, to an engineer, to a manager of a department. And then I was recruited away by a company in Seattle who was one of the first wireless companies. So I did the same thing, only with wireless. So we were putting wireless antennas on all the buildings in Seattle and California. So it was all the West Coast. Anyway, I just gave you that information so you know that I have a solid background in internet technology, and that I know what I'm talking about. And I've seen, the companies evolve with internet technology. I've seen good and bad things about, growing too fast, or not adopting soon enough. So um, that experience is going to help the churches that I'm working with. have a better understanding of what they need to do and how everything works. And there's not something that I don't know about the internet. It might, it might put some people to sleep. But anyway, there's no question that you couldn't ask me that I would help you learn the answer to if you needed that. So let's see. Just fun facts. I worked with some companies like MTV, Victoria's Secret. When I was doing medical stuff, it was a Swedish hospital in Seattle. I did one of the first Da Vinci robots that had internet to, program it and stuff like that. So I had a good old time back in the day. But now I'm here in Houston with my own company, and I've been a member of Resurrection for 23 years. I consider it my church home. I'm highly invested in the sustainability and growth and scalability of what's going to come to them as the future of church online. So these are the statistics that I talked about earlier. So these are from Nona's book. So there's 350,000 registered churches. 2 out of 3 churches are plateaued or declining in attendance. Well, we know that. 60% of all local churches have fewer than 100 people in attendance, which that number shocked me. I would have guessed that there were many more churches with more than 100 people. So it just goes to tell me that there's going to be a great need out there because churches with less than 100 people are not going to have deep pockets to invest um, in technology. Um, so the question is, why are people leaving churches? So it's important for us to think about what the vision is for your church and the mission for your church. The vision, in my opinion, is to have a new way to grow, for the church to grow membership online. And then by creating an online church, we create an open space for people that's welcoming, people that want to know God or haven't been exposed to the Christian uh, lifestyle and teachings. I think that's a very important thing. I think that a lot of young people missed out on church as kids. They grew up in a household where there's 2 parents working, and weekends were for grocery shopping and doing what the kids needed and all of that stuff. So church kind of went to the wayside as families became more busy. And this to me was a statement that was telling. For many people, church happens between 11 and 12:15 p.m. It's scripted. It has rehearsals and teams and plans that are timed to the second. That is our church, right? We have a absolutely beautiful service every Sunday. Musicians, vocalists, all dances and people who dance, just amazing things that we have in person, and now we share streaming online. But that happens between 11 and 12:15. So if you're not able to be there physically, then too bad, so sad. You missed the service, right? But the one thing we have to our advantage is that when we stream the services, we record them. So they have playback. So our playback services get hundreds of views afterwards. So that's a consideration that I think a lot of churches don't understand about how streaming works and the benefits of it. So that's part of what we're going to talk about. I was visiting a church in Lubbock, and they were teeny tiny church. I've fell in love with them. They're the sweetest congregation. They were using an iPad and a Zoom meeting for their in or for their online congregants, but the problem with that is that unless they're posting the service somewhere afterwards where people can access it, it kind of dies with that particular meeting or that Zoom session. So we want to show you how to get more bang for your buck with recording your services. And so I'm going to intertwine some things here about um, you know, what it is to share Christianity with a one-to-many mindset. And if we look back at the life of Jesus, um, he didn't require the apostles to say, hey, we're going to be at the market square at 10 o'clock, and if you want to hear us you can come and see us, right? That's not how it worked. What he wanted was the disciples to disperse and share the story everywhere. And whenever that happened, there was no timed service. It was impromptu sharing of the gospel or sharing of um, their teachings. So it all started with Jesus. He started it. Um, so I hear a lot about age in our church as a conversation. So, well, we need more young people. So, what does that mean? We had a kind of vibrant, young, like a teenage age group class, and then now we have a young adults class, but it's kind of new. So we have to think about, the ages, and now we categorize age into these subcategories. And so the question was asked about people by age, whether they had a religious affiliation or not. And so the answers came from different generations. And if you don't know, millennials are aged 28 to 44. And then Gen Z is 27 and under. And now we have the Gen Alpha. So that's 12 and under. So how are we reaching um, those people? And we're also missing the mark on the older people. So we have to have a strategy and a plan for reaching these different groups of people. And it has to be something that's thought out. And like a regular business would do a marketing plan, or they would do a business plan and say, well, for this customer persona, we're going to do this, and this. We have to do the same thing with the age groups that we encounter at church. So for the last 10 years, Americans who identify as Christian have dropped to 65% of the US population, and that is huge. That's a terrible statistic. And some religious denominations have experienced it even more than that. So they're trying to figure out, where's everybody going, right? So we're going to tell them. And the biggest reason why those people answered that they didn't go to church was because whatever it was that that church was serving up, the dish of the day, wasn't relevant to them. So that's a word that has a huge meaning. And relevance has to come in targets of different people. So 20 years ago, you would get a broadcast message about, here's Coca-Cola, right? And they geared it towards a certain demographic. They geared it towards, whoever it was, they identified as being the most lucrative market for them. Today, we have the ability to personalize everything online. There's so many cookies and, tracking things, and not to think of it as Big Brother, but it's just it's information. In my opinion, I'd rather see stuff that is in my I want to see wheelhouse rather than, I got to sit through this dumb video because or this ad, I don't want to see, and maybe I'm going to change the channel or, skip to a different video because I don't want to see that. So we have to think about that same thing in what we're serving up in our content. Um, so we really need to concentrate on more than just age. We have to concentrate on what's relevant to those people. So I'm the queen of analytics and graphs, and the success of my internet career was based on the fact that I had analytics. My very first job that that I had, where I took over a department that was in a disaster status, was my boss came to me and said, "Hey, Suzette, we want you to come up with some KPI, um, and tell us what we need to do here." And I was like, "The heck is KPI?" So I ran down to Barnes and Noble because they didn't have Amazon. Ran down to Barnes and Noble and I got a book on KPI, which stands for Key Performance Indicators. So that is just a way for you to track how you're doing. So first thing I did was, oh, we have this many orders in back order. We have this many things this way. So I could at least see where things were going to heck in a handbasket and work on that. So by having graphs and analytics to help you, it may feel overwhelming, especially if you're a small church, especially if you're a volunteer, especially if, this isn't really something that you think about on a regular basis. It may feel like it hurts your brain, but really and truly, when you get used to seeing things like this, it's going to be very telling, and I can show you things later on that will point to that and prove that that theory. So here's our Generation Z. Those are the ones that got indoctrinated with the internet first and foremost, right? They're the ones that grew up with the first plastic Apple computer and, the things on the disk drive and things like that. I'm going to go back to how old I am, but um, I got we know that that particular generation has a lot of internet savvy. And then we go down to these generations, and they're still in catch-up mode. But so we have some information there that could help us with our programming. So with online ministry, it's so much more than the age demographic. So in our consideration, we need to think about, you know, how convenient and accessible it is for someone to watch a service online or participate in a group online or attend a webinar, go to a meeting. For the most part, it's two-way conversations, right? You're not like being broadcast to and you don't have an opinion. So the online church services offer flexibility in timing and location, which we talked about that already. So, you can go back and watch that service later on, or in the instance of YouTube, you can actually listen to that service kind of in an audio format while you're driving. It's the options are endless for that. There's I made friends with Liam. I don't know if Liam's on, didn't see or not, but Liam has a podcast, and I want to get to know him because he has all that technology skill set that I don't have. But podcasts are big right now. People are multitasking. They're doing multiple things at once. So you're exercising, maybe you want to listen to a podcast. You're driving for 3 hours, maybe you want to listen to something. So having that convenience and accessibility with people's busy schedules is huge. So another reason why people may like to attend an online service or online church is because they have some kind of an immunity disorder. Maybe they're going through some kind of a treatment where they, can't be exposed to certain things. So, that prevents them from that exposure. So that's a concern. Let's see. Next, we have, people that have childcare and family needs. So maybe you're at home, you're a caregiver and you're home taking care of a parent or young children or whatever. Um, it is, a target market that we could potentially, target messaging to or have content that's targeted to them. Create interesting things for that particular audience. Then we have people who are introverts or have social anxiety. Um, when I first came to Resurrection, um, I drove there, and it was pretty far from where I lived. I drove there and sat in the parking lot without going in the very first time I went. And it took me another couple of weeks before, and this was with my young son with me. He took the ride for nothing, and so then we got to the parking lot again, and I got out of the car, and that was the best thing I ever did. But I could have sampled Resurrection online before I came to church, and it maybe would have made me feel a lot less anxious about going into this particular church. Everyone has a different reason. Um, when you have an online uh, participation or an online offering, it gives your people greater access to content. So different things, different if I had more help with what I do, I could offer more videos. I could offer more blogs. I can offer more. That's why we're putting together a social media committee at Resurrection, so that there is some extra help in doing some of these things. We're targeting and doing all the things that I can't do by myself can be shared. So I'm looking for new shepherds. I'll have an application soon for shepherds. Um, anyway, another reason would be flexibility in worship style. So you may be looking for a certain kind of service, and you can have a sampling of worship style without having to make a huge investment by actually going into the church. So um, that's one consideration. So all of these things are selling points that we could be talking about in our content when we put social media up, when we put up um, videos, all kinds of things. So, and then the biggest thing for me is the global reach and community. So there are so many people just in the United States that don't have access to an affirming church, or they don't have access to a church at all. Um, there's a huge amount of people that would discover us if we had the ability to be more discoverable. So just the idea of having a global reach, I had someone online Sunday from Sweden. So I didn't know that person, but we have people from California, people from Costa Rica, that person from Sweden. We have Carol from New Mexico. So Sunday services for me are just, these are my people from everywhere. Um, and again, the fact that we have a recorded version that they can go back and listen to again is a huge bonus for us. Um, and then again, being able to try the service out, see if it's a good fit a couple times before you actually make the commitment is a reason for some people. But what this all says is just to make sure that we are meeting people where they are. Everyone has a phone, a smart device, everyone, and they're going to keep that close to them. And we want to be that church. We want to be those people who are available to everyone. So, I did this. I looked up church online, and you see a lot of different things when you Google that. So, over 30,000 people a month search the phrase church online. And we'll talk more about keywords when we talk about websites in just a few. And so, I'm going to take a sip of water. So, this is another consideration. We're not a small church. We have over 100 people come to church physically on the weekends. Um, when we started out Resurrection 53 years ago, um, we were able to be the OG of the LGBTQIA community. We were one of the first, if not the only, in Houston. Community church for gay and lesbian, transgenders. And, we were a small congregation and exploded to 400 or 500 people. I wasn't part of the executive team at that time, so I don't know the exact numbers, but over time, more churches have become affirming. And I did a Google map, and you could see the number one dot on the map is Resurrection. And then you can see 10 other churches in a 5 mile radius of where we are that are open and affirming. So when I work with my business customers, I'm like, have you looked at your competition? If you have a physical location, and you sell hamburgers, are you gonna set up your shop right next to another hamburger joint? That would be not smart, right? So we have to take into consideration who our competition is. And so this past week, I did some of that. I got a list from one of our board members of open and affirming churches that we have a relationship with. And I did some homework on them, and I looked at their social media. I looked at how many followers they had and stuff like that. So out of I think it was 11 that I looked at, only two had more followers than we did on our social media. So that was encouraging. And it makes sense to pay attention to those numbers. So maybe you get a church, even closer in to where we are, and they start eroding our church congregation because they're offering something new and spectacular and special that people really are looking for and want. So people are fickle. You know this, right? Or they get mad at somebody at the church and they're looking for a reason to go somewhere else, or whatever the reason. We don't have ownership of anybody, and there's competitive signals coming from all over the place. We have to be more vigilant with our ability to reach out to people in our vicinity. I drive in an hour and 20 minutes, right, from a city far south of Houston. And I do that because I'm invested in Resurrection's my family church. And I'm not going to change churches. But there's a lot of people who maybe move and maybe they find a church closer to home or whatever reason. So we have to be vigilant of that. That is a definite thing to pay attention to. So here's the list of when I did a Google search of the churches that came up. Some of them I haven't heard of, but most of them I have. And these are open and affirming churches. Some have non-denominational, some are denominational, Methodist, Universalist, Episcopal. So you have to think about, is that particular religion, even though it's open and affirming, is that religion compatible with my personal belief system? So it's complicated. We have to think about that. So these are some statistics, and I think that it's really important for you to know this. And when I become part of the innovation team for the denomination, I'm going to be doing church audits. So I'm going to be doing this kind of stuff for your church. And I've done it a number of times for Resurrection. So there are a number of social media channels. There are a number of social media channels that have 9/10 of the population of social media. So even though you might be a big TikTok fan and you haven't been on Facebook in a really long time, you probably still have a Facebook or Instagram account. And we'll look at the numbers as well, how that works with ages and also uh, gender and stuff like that. So Facebook gives you free analytics. So on the first slide, that's our Facebook demographics. So we have 7,564 followers on our Facebook page. So the light blue is women and the dark blue is men. So on our Facebook page, we mostly have between the ages of 25 and I'm going to say 50 is our big chunk of people that look at us online. Um, on Instagram, which is a different age demographic, and that'll come up here in another slide. It's a little bit different, where most of them are in the 20-something to 40-something range, which is what Instagram followers, their demographic is the strongest. So you'll see those correlations with how that works. But we have opportunities because certain channels have been discontinued or changed or whatever. I'm sure you've heard about the TikTok thing, and that's a whole nother webinar. A lot of under 30 something people, I'm addicted to TikTok. So even though I'm on Facebook and Instagram, I love TikTok. So now I'm kind of having to pay attention to Instagram Reels because that's kind of where it's headed. But it's complicated. And now that it's gotten a little political, it's a little bit, I don't like it. And I'll talk about in our next session, the next session about email communication and all of that. But the thing about social media is that you don't own your contacts. Okay. If I'm going to tell you something right off the bat, you better be doing something to collect your demographic, your contacts. So whether you're putting out a regular sign up for my newsletter or text message this number and sign up for our newsletter, however you're going to do it, you need some redundancy, because if you have a problem with your page, if Facebook decides that it's not happy with something you did and they put you in Facebook jail and take your page down, you have no recourse, really. You can petition them to put it back up, but if you have 20,000 followers, you just lost contact with all of them. So if you don't have those contacts in a mailing list somewhere, you're sunk. I've known it to happen to several people. One of them was a gay Western music's person that our church had a relationship with, and he lost everything one day. I don't know if his page got hacked or it got taken down by Facebook for whatever reason, but he had to start over, and that's just something I don't want you to ever have to do. Okay. So if you can see, we have a phenomenal amount of reach. And I did one ad this last few weeks for a concert that we're having, but that ad wasn't the big driving force for how many people saw our content or some content from our page. If you see the 3-second views, that has to do with the Facebook Reel or the Facebook Stories or some video content that we put up. So a good amount of people saw those reels and looked at them. It's just incredible, the reach. The big thing that the Facebook algorithms look for is engagement. So if you've got content out there and people are liking, commenting, and sharing your content, the algorithms are going to see favor on you and they're going to post more of your stuff. Right now, organically, Facebook only shows your content to 1% of your followers. And that is a big unknown by certain, by people. So unless you monetize your content with some kind of boosting or placing an ad, very few people are going to see it. So I take a lot of pride in knowing that my content is really great and it gets engagement. I see Jared and Leo have raised their hand. Do you
Yes.
ask a
My
question?
question is a question that's also echoed in our next gen chat by Liam. What about us getting on the ground floor of Blue Sky? Like, what about Blue Sky?
I don't know anything about it. I'm not going to lie. I know about it, but I don't know enough about it. So we'll have an offline conversation about it, but I'm not going to say no. If it's taken off, we're going to look at it. It's now part of my social media posting software. So I know it exists because I see it. Do you want to connect your Blue Sky channel? I'm like, they wouldn't be offering that if it wasn't a thing. So please, let's talk about it. Well, I don't want to get off track, but let's talk about it offline, please. Anyway, we want to do what makes sense, and I'm not against. It's just if it's part of my posting software that I use so that I can post multiple posts with that by scheduling them, that's super helpful. Um, there's a like Snapchat, they don't do they don't use any kind of they're not in they have no integrations with anything. It because for a lot of reasons, but um okay, I'm about halfway and I want to make sure that I'm off of here by 8:30, so I'm going to go a little faster. Um, YouTube is our biggest, hugest opportunity. Why? Because it is the second largest search engine in the world. Google is number one. Google is the largest search engine in the world, and it carries 92% of all searches on the internet. YouTube is owned by Google. And video is the most watched content over any other content. They've now added podcasts to YouTube, so they're recognizing that. But video is the most important content of any content that you could post. So YouTube is our biggest opportunity. I would like to do more reels, more YouTube shorts. They're short little videos, just like you see on TikTok. But YouTube gives a lot more credence to long videos. So, um, if we have, like we're doing the God Talk videos, we have a whole channel. We have a series that is led by Reverend Dr. Carol Kiesling, out of Taos, New Mexico, and she is our online minister, and she does a weekly webinar Zoom called God Talk, and it's fabulous. So we put these videos online for rewatching on God Talk, and they are an hour or more. So we should be figuring out a way to optimize that, because it's content that we're already doing. Anyway, there's lots more we can talk about with regard to YouTube, but just know it's an important channel for us and we need to pay attention to it. Plus, we've doubled or tripled our subscribers in the last 2 years, which is really good. And so that I just answered this question, is YouTube a search engine? So go to the next one. So you can see the analytics of who's watching videos. So we know that, we have proof. We have social proof that we need to be paying attention to YouTube or any video, anytime, whether it be Reels, YouTube Shorts, or not YouTube Shorts. Yeah, YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels and Stories, that kind of stuff is really popular to watch. This is the YouTube age demographics. And that's another reason why I see the intersection of, we want to attract a younger audience. So we need to be putting video content out there that's going to appeal to the 18 to 40 something range. And that's just something that I'm not equipped to do at this time with my bandwidth and my resources that I have right now. So I need help. I will have help, and I think we're going to be very successful with this. So next, I'm talking about the asset of having a website. Our website, when I first started with Resurrection, was something complete. They built it, and then they did another nothing to it since for 8 years, 9 years. And when I got a hold of it, it was almost on the verge of crashing and burning and being, unable to be retrieved. So I hurried up and made another website. And making a website is a group effort. And it requires a lot of input from all your ministries and other people and things like that. So if you're going to take on the project of building a website, you really need to be sure that whoever does your website really knows how websites are built and developed, and not to build one on Wix or not to build one using the GoDaddy, website generator. There are certain things that you have to build into your website in order for search engines to see it. And that wasn't part of Resurrection's website. It's not the prettiest website. It's not the best website I've ever seen, but it has all the ingredients to get found. And that was the goal. I mean, it's an okay website. I would like to have more, um, you know, pictures of real people instead of stock photos, but when you do that, you have to ask for a media release. You're a commercial enterprise, or, you cannot put someone's image or picture on your website without getting their permission. Period, point blank, you can't do it. So that's why there's not a lot of original pictures on our website. Plus, I didn't have any, so that needs attention. I need help. I need help. So in the last year, Resurrection's website had 17,000 users, which is respectable. It's a little over 1,000 a month, which is respectable. The thing about it is that when we built this new website, it was keyword driven and search engine optimized. So we are getting more traffic from people who are more likely to want to see our content. And in the truth of that, I don't know if I included a slide with that or not, but visitors stayed on our website over 1.5 minutes, which is unheard of engagement. I have people who have 1,000 visits a month on their website, and they have 3-second views. That tells me the person that landed there didn't find what they were looking for, or the content that they found was not of an interest to them, or whatever, whatever, whatever. There's a million reasons. So I have to say that even though our website's not, all that in a bag of chips, it's a good website. It's doing its job. So you'll see these things. This is a YouTube analytics report, and there's, it's so granular. You can look at things like who's visiting and where are they coming from and what kind of device they're using, and are they engaging on your website? And if you have ads running, it tells you how much money you're making and blah, 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 blah. It's a lot. So there are companies that care about that stuff, but we just want to make sure we're getting traffic and we know where they're going, and that they're engaging. Next slide. So if you drill down, you can see that most people are finding us with an organic search. That's incredible. That means that we're not paying ad dollars for people to find us. 8,300 users came back multiple times to equal 17,000 or whatever it is. And they found us with a keyword. So gay church in Houston, LGBT, some kind of keyword drove them to our website, and they found it in that way. So the homepage or landing page should have the biggest, hottest keyword that you can come up with, because that's the one that most people find first. A direct search means that they typed in resurrectionmcc.org. So whatever that means. Organic social means that they found us organically through social media. So they saw a social post and they clicked on a link in that social post and came to our website. Referral means whatever. Referral is we were found in a newsletter, another site, a blog, whatever. So there's lots of ways that people can find us, and getting them to find us is what we need. So I can see who visited what pages on a monthly or a yearly. This is our last year. So the backslash is our homepage. 42,000 people found our homepage. And then the next one, the next popular page was how to grow your faith, and then events, blah, blah, blah. So we can see as a church what pages people are searching. The thing that we're missing at Resurrection on our website is a blog. We have newsletters that we repurpose as a blog, but we don't have someone writing blogs every month. And that's a game changer. So in my desire to build a committee or an organization for social media, digital marketing. That's going to be one of the things that I really want to accomplish, is getting a blog that talks about things of interest to people. And we have to make sure that it's relevant. And we have to be sure that the person writing it can write. And we have to be sure of all these things. So it's not just something that we can say, oh, we're going to have a blog. There's a lot to consider when you have a blog. So that's part of it. So when I took over in August of 2021, this was our bulletin report. So this is public information. We had 22 people streaming online and 165 in person. This was still right after COVID, or still kind of in COVID. In January, this last Sunday, we had 62 online streaming and 119 in person. So, hey, do you see a trend with that? I think so. We have maintained over 50 online Sunday live stream participants. They log in. Everybody knows everybody. We talk to each other in chat. We talk to each other. We encourage each other. We pray for each other. It's a family of online people, and they're there every Sunday. So the online streaming is managed by, oh gosh, I'm so sorry. It's Shirley in Costa Rica. Anyway, we have a person online that manages. I'm sorry, it's a long day, and if I Sandy, I'm so sorry, Sandy, I didn't forget you. Sandy in Costa Rica is online every Sunday, managing that chat and making sure that we greet those people. We call them by name. We tell them we're glad they're there. We greet people that aren't at church because they're sick or they're in the hospital or for whatever reason. We have a person who I dearly love. He's on an out-of-state work assignment for 6 months in Minnesota somewhere. So we have people in California who used to be part of our church who still come every single Sunday. So recognizing those people and making sure we have a connection with them is so important. And that's going to keep growing as soon as we can get some more outreach going. So a lot of people say, well, I think online church is impersonal. And what I just said is contradicts that. So you could be in person in church and feel like no one sees you, right? I have, I shouldn't tell this story, but we have a person in God Talk who comes on from time to time, and I asked her name, and she said, I've been going to this church since you were in Decatur, which is before my 23 years. And I felt like a bad human for not knowing her. And she comes to church physically, but she sits in the back. So I've never seen her there. So anyway, she says, I feel invisible when I come to church. So even somebody that's been invested in coming to our church for that long says she feels invisible, um, broke my heart. So we have to do better there. I think we are. I think we are. But there's still room for improvement. There's always room for improvement. So I like to go back to Jesus because he was a great guy and he knew how to talk to the people. People love to listen to him talk. So rather than creating a passive audience, which means they're just sitting there watching with their popcorn, right? And what's happening, they're engaged, right? They're invested in what's happening. They want to hear the message. So I think it's really important that we invest in our two-way ability to communicate with people online and make sure we're doing our disciple jobs. When I did this course the first time, I kind of Googled some information, and a lot of people are fighting something, and a lot of people really need outreach. So those people who are at the, the lowest of the low, the depressed, the people who are suicidal, they're lonely, they're isolated, they want something spiritual to happen to them. They don't have a community. They're looking for some kind of hope and a connection with others. Those were the biggest reasons that people needed to be part of something. And so even though a lot of LGBTQ people, marginalized people in different countries have different reasons, for um, how they're treated as a marginalized community, causes depression and causes suicidal thoughts. It can come from our families. It can come from a number of different places. We want to reach out to those people and give them resources and make them feel like they're part of something really good. And I hope we do that. I feel like we do. I think we do. But the biggest thing to me, and when I first started this, it was, how do we get more people in the building? How do we get more people to come to church? And I was like, people, you're missing it. You're missing the point. It took me 2 years of, I just did it anyway. I went ahead and I did some stuff, and I was consistent with it and made a community of online people. And it shows in the numbers. So it's needed. And the numbers give me the ability to say, hey, we have numbers, I can back that up to our leadership, who are the decision makers when it comes to money, and who gets to spend time on what. So we just want to make sure that we are available to people when they need us. And so I want you to think about what your reason is for wanting to do this, because I think that's a really important driver for, sticking with it. I'm sticking with it because I want to reach people who need, I don't want to say just me, but who need what I have to share. So I want to show people that our church, our people are built on a foundation of love. And there's nothing else that anybody needs to know. I think that if we can show that to people, that is a great icebreaker. Hey, we're about love, and we love you, and we want you to be part of us. So this was part of another thing that I thought was really important, and it kind of shows the importance, or it does show the importance of having an online presence, because again, it's a one-to-many relationship rather than a many-to-one. That's kind of a marketing thing. You had a funnel where you threw a lot of rice in it, and, trickled down into maybe one or two people that are, wanting to hear what you have to say. This is the ability to go that way. So two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. So just think of the strengths of what we have online. Think of the strengths now, especially in our political climate, in, the challenges that we're faced with for whatever's happening right now in our country. we have the power of being more than just a one voice. So that's part of our justice ministry. And you can talk to Bob Stubblefield, and he will be happy to share that with you. So now I'm going to get quickly into the social media relationships and how they're important. So again, everybody has a cell phone or a smart device. Everybody. Fun fact, 8 billion people in the world have, out of 8 billion, 6.5 billion have a cell phone, and 3.5 billion own a toothbrush. Does that tell you where our priorities are? Mm-hmm. Um, I have talked to someone in Uganda, like found me on Facebook, and he was calling me all the time. He was started a ministry there in Uganda, and he was looking for help and stuff like that. But he was talking to me constantly because he had a cell phone, right? He was making rice on a little pot and a campfire stove. That's how he ate, you know. But he had a cell phone. He could talk to me on the other side of the world. So there's a whole lot of truth in that. We never put them down. We have to pay attention. This is marketing science, okay? Um, it's it's basically about neuromarketing and how we work. But if we get somebody and we give them a wow experience, and then we stay in touch with them, and then we engage with them, and then they connect with new prospects, and they share stuff, and it just keeps going and going and going, and eventually we get shared organically. So I love that when people share a post, that's magic. That's the magic of social media. When someone shares a post, it's because they feel something about what they just saw online and they want to share it. So basically, this is the way that people can discover our church, right? Not so much print media anymore because it's expensive and nobody really reads print media anymore. So it's kind of a going away method of communication. But which one of these is the most powerful if you were to make a, a, a guess, right? Which one? So the one I picked three because I asked you to pick one. But really the most important, powerful way to expose the church is through the search engines, because that's where everybody goes and asks questions, and the God at Google will respond, right? Or the YouTube God will respond with something. But search engines work hand in hand with social media, and email, which is what we're going to talk about the next time we meet, is the third most critical, and if not the most important, method of communication that we have as a church. So the one thing that social media changed the world about is that it's two-way communication. I can text, or not text, but I can tweet or whatever to that guy on Twitter, or I can find somebody famous on Facebook or Instagram and say something to them, and they might say something back to me, right? It's possible. But for the most part, you're going to get a string of people talking to each other in a post. But again, it's multiple conversations around a topic, and that's what social media is. It's not a gimmick. It's just how the world communicates today. The one-way phone, no one answers, you hang up, right? Social media, no one answers, you go somewhere else, right away. So we have to be on social media. We have to be targeted in the right ways. We have to know what we want as a church, set goals, align our strategy, and make sure that it performs with analytics so that we know what we're doing works. So, some of you know that I started a group on Facebook about a year and a half ago. And the reason why I started a group is because of what I learned in Nona's book. I'm on this green screen. But groups are different than pages. So if you didn't know that, you need to know that. And on Facebook, you must not start a business page as a personal page, or Facebook will take you down. So Resurrection has a business page, right? And the business page talks about things we're doing, things the denomination is doing, things that are happening around our denomination, things that are happening around the church, events, all kinds of stuff. We have a new group page, and that's where we get to be a little bit more casual. We can have conversations with each other. We don't have to be so conscious of how our tone, or, we can be more passionate. We can talk about things that are maybe not appropriate to talk about on a business page. So I created the group as a private group, which is visible. So that means that the group can be found in a search, but you have to ask to be a member of it in order to be part of that Facebook group, because we want to respect people's privacy. We want to encourage people who are like-minded to join the group. We don't want trolls or ugly people to join our group without permission, and I don't want to have to monitor the constant dynamics of different people on the page. So we have a group page, and it has 500 people. And my goal is to grow that page. And the goal is to make that page have the different events and more socialization of our relationships. So that's the goal for the Facebook page. I would love to clone myself and create more things. What I would love to do is solicit community people who have something to talk about. Perhaps a book author, perhaps somebody who has something of value for the community. We're doing a will, it's called a Willathon, in March with the Houston Bar Association. So they came to us and were like, we want to do this and create wills for the LGBTQ community, because we have a commission that is just serving that community, or we have lawyers who are in part of this group. And so they've taken an interest in our community, and they understand that we have a different way of looking at the world with relationships and things like that. So I'd love to have somebody like that come online and have a conversation with people. So I'm out looking for people to help me develop content, a webinar, maybe write a blog, whatever you want to do. I'm open to it. If you know somebody in the community, someone to talk about healthcare for our community, someone to talk about maybe relaxation techniques or stress reduction, just things of interest that maybe people want to talk about. So that's my goal for this coming year, is to find interesting things to do on our page. Right now it's God Talk and me and a few other people who post. Bob Stubblefield is one of them. This is the group. We call it our online community. And once again, everybody that's part of this group, um, ask to be a part of it. And they go through, they have to be approved. So Bob or me or, one of the other page admins looks at that person and makes sure that they adhere to our, privacy and manners agreement that's up on the page. So I'm very happy with this. I'm made a personal commitment to posting on it on a regular basis, but I wish other people would share. With 500 people in the group, I wish other people would share. It would be wonderful to see and hear from them, um, what's happening in their life and things they care about. So you can see over time, I love my graphs. The graph that goes up is the good graph. So that's the graph I like. We had 24 membership requests in the last month, which is quite a lot for us. So that means someone's pitching the group for me, or people are finding us. So I did run an ad, so maybe that's helping. So we are headed in the right direction. I want to stay excited and positive, and the sky's the limit. But what we need as a church is we need an advertising budget. We didn't get one. We haven't had an ad budget ever. And Facebook allows you to run ads so that you can show your posts to more people. We need our social media committee. I need help. So that's part of the other thing that I need. We need a plan along with the budget for website improvements. So these are the things that I'm going to our board with, along with the social media committee plan, and saying, this is what we need to accomplish what I think is going to bring us to the next level, on our digital marketing. So last slide. Oh my God, I'm almost on time, and it's got a couple minutes so we could chit chat. But next time we meet is going to talk about email communication, the right way to communicate, things to talk about. Anything else that you might want to know, you can message me. My email is Suzette, Suzettee @resurrectionmcc.org, and just say, I'm in the social media to social discipleship webinar, and I would like to ask a question about this, and I'll answer it for you. So that concludes our presentation for tonight. I am going to stop the recording and let you guys ask me a question if you'd like.